I started teaching here in the fall of 1981, and I became aware of Los Abogados almost immediately. I think maybe one of the students in the student organization for Hispanic students told me about it, and I came to some of the lunch meetings and started to get to know the members of Los Abogados and what they do. I became involved fairly quickly because I became a supervisor of the Hispanic Students Association, which had a different name back then. Now it's CALSA, Chicano Latino Law Students Association. Back then, they had two different, actually competing organizations, and it later then came together in a single one. Well, I saw the central position that it took in mentoring programs. For example, for as long as I've known Los Abogados, they've had a mentoring program with law students here, where they have a one-on-one mentor and mentee relationship with any interested student in CALSA who wants to have the benefits of that program with an attorney from Los Abogados. There are also frequent speakers at lunchtime panels, which can be very helpful to students because there's some topic relating to the law that's educational, and it's also a networking opportunity. And students get the same opportunity when they go to the monthly luncheons with Los Abogados. So any organization that has that relationship to the law school and to the student organization, for which I'm the faculty advisor, is something I value. Once you've climbed up the ladder, rather than pulling it up behind you, you give a helping hand to the persons behind you. I helped start a mentoring program that I'll talk about in a moment at the University of Las Vegas when I was the Hispanic National Bar Association regional president. They call it Huellas, footprints, following the path of others. But you heard me mention some of the mentoring programs that Los Abogados has done forever. And we want to now talk about how it reaches beyond just law students, but also youth outreach to pre-law students, to students as early as high school and junior high school, because that's when students make some important decisions about the paths they want to take in the future. Forever, you've had requests, occasional requests for an attorney or a law student to visit, say, a K through 12 classroom, give a presentation about a career, or participate in a career fair. But we wanted to get something that was a little bit more systemic, a little more systematic, a little bit more regular. So in 2006, I brought to Phoenix and the law school a 4-tier mentoring program that was modeled after one that the Hispanic National Bar Association had created. And what we did was put together subject matter related teams. And in each of the teams, we'd have at least one attorney, at least one law student interested in that subject matter, at least one college pre-law student, and at least one high school student. That was the ideal. Yeah, so we're really reaching down to various parts of the ladder. And we would get together with all of these teams. It would be 50 to 100 people. All of these teams at the beginning of a semester. We'd hold a dinner for them, funded by the Law School Admissions Council and its Discover Law wing. And we'd have either an attorney or a law professor give a presentation about some interesting area of the law. Then we break for dinner, and the teams would sit together and get to know each other, do some networking. The high school and college students would ask questions of the law students. Everybody would ask questions of the attorney. And then we asked them, these teams, to also meet outside of that opening meeting once or twice during the semester. The nice thing about it is I heard from attorneys that they would sometimes have permanent mentoring relationships with some members of their team. Friendships developed, and they would continue to mentor them past college, past high school. So there was the first sort of youth outreach, at least that I was involved in, and with Los Abogados. But after about 10 years of doing that, and at least seeing the success of the networking taking place in front of our eyes, we switched because a high school youth leadership institute called Aguila asked us to create a pre-law program for their students who are interested in law. So we switched our resources and developed a pre-law program for this organization that had at that time about 250 very serious college-bound high school students. Mostly Latino, from students from schools that were mostly Latino, but all ethnicities in that organization. And by the way, we actually taught legal method classes, law-related classes to those high school students. We would take a case like California versus Carney, which dealt with the warrantless search of a motorhome, and show them how, when the Supreme Court decided that case, it sat right between two Supreme Court precedents. And so the Fourth Amendment issue was really very difficult to decide, and it's very difficult to predict what the court would do. So it's a perfect case to have them debate, divided to two teams and debate. We gave them moot court problems in current moot court competitions, and we could see that maybe 2 or 3 of them were unusually proficient in that moot court exercise. So we'd invite them to actually participate in the competitions going on. We'd get Los Abogados attorneys meeting with them at their law firms and coaching them on that. So I think that's a success just to see that happen and to see that kind of educational process taking place outside of their high schools, to see the networking and mentoring going on. Well, I tried not to be prideful about it, but I get lots of satisfaction. I mean, to see a member of Los Abogados meeting with a high school student and giving them feedback after they give their moot court presentation it's fantastic. And I remember at the competition, one of the, we call them Aguilitas, the Aguila students, just doing terrifically. And one of the judges, who was either an attorney or a judge herself, said something like, "That was so good it's scary," which is an interesting compliment, but one that was very well received. So there's tremendous satisfaction in seeing something like that. By the way, we also had a program that reached down to 8th grade, because there was a teacher at Santa Maria Middle School, way out in the west, in Buckeye Road. Didn't get a lot of attention from attorneys downtown until we brought law students and attorneys down there every year to teach that legal method class, California versus Carney. And we'd start out by saying to the 8th graders, "Do any of you like to argue?" And of course, all these hands come up, and we say, "Okay, we're going to do some of that today." And we'd present the case to them, then we'd divide them into 2 groups and have them present their arguments. But what was really special was following that, because that's sort of introducing them to the judicial process. Then we'd go back to the Law School Admissions Council, Discover Law, get some more funding, and hire the buses to take them to the Capitol. And a member of Los Abogados, Jason Barraza, who works in the area of legislation, would set up this terrific agenda with the legislature for these students. And they'd have a field day, 250 of them would go. That was quite memorable and educational. So between those 2 annual visits, we covered the judiciary and the legislative branch. Just to show the tiers from the Hispanic National Bar Association, Los Abogados, affiliated with CALSA. One year, the board of directors, and they've got like about 20 members, the board of directors of the Hispanic National Bar Association is meeting in Phoenix. And they said, "We want to become involved in one of your mentoring programs." So we arranged to have that annual meeting at Santa Maria High School and middle school, and a sister middle school, Western Valley Middle School, to coincide with their visit. And so we had, those members of the board of directors, plus members of Los Abogados, plus law students from here, appear in the classrooms of nearly 1,000 students at those two middle schools in one long day for this mentoring extravaganza. They all taught this California versus Carney case or talked about what they do in their careers. So that was the most sophisticated day we spent with those eighth graders. Time. But the one thing that I noticed the most is every year I see more graduates of this school become members of Los Abogados. And that's the most satisfying thing for me, to see my former students now as practicing attorneys and leaders in Los Abogados. It's just a terrific feeling to see that. That is, a few years ago, members of Los Abogados came up with a brilliant mentoring program with the help of a LSAT prep company that gave them a discount. Every year they get a certain number of applicants who, over the summer, take an LSAT prep program that is funded by Los Abogados, and they also get a copy of my book about succeeding in law school. And between those two, they are getting accepted into law schools, to some really good law schools, and we hope we'll have success in law school as well. And I didn't create that program. I helped bring or create some of the other programs, but Los Abogados honored me by attaching my name to this LSAT fellowship program, and I am extremely honored, extremely proud of that, and very happy that some brilliant people in Los Abogados had the foresight to put that together. You know, Los Abogados is an organization that is interested in issues that affect the Hispanic community, the broader Hispanic community, interested in legal issues that affect that community as well. It's open to anybody who wants to be a member, so it's not exclusive in that sense. But it's important, I think, to have organizations that have some specialized interests and provide some opportunities for lawyers and law students to pick and choose which organizations most match their area of interest. Parents, when you have a mentoring program that involves middle schoolers, eighth graders, or high school students, and the parents are driving them, to these mentoring programs, they see what the law school is doing and what the student organization and the attorney organization is doing for their kids and their community. And I think that helps spread the word that this College of Law, like every other part of ASU, is embedded in the community and is not stuck in some ivory tower somewhere. Beyond that, when we see that students, for example, in Aguila Youth Leadership Institute, are committed to going to college and are inspired to going to college, and many of them beyond that to graduate school, like law school, we hope they come back to this community, and we have now very highly educated, highly trained former students who come back to our community who also have been instilled in them a sense of giving back to that community, paying it forward. I will tell you that from my vantage point as a professor who taught a lot of students in my 1L contracts course, and I also taught other courses that had, substantial enrollment, but not as big as that 1L section. I would see those former students then become attorneys, then become active participants, often leaders in Los Abogados. And just from my vantage point, that's the thing that I saw the most and noticed the most and valued a lot. And as the membership in Los Abogados both grew, but also evolved, because a lot of the early members retired, they were replaced with people I knew well, because they were in my classroom and they were in Calsa when I was advising them, and then they're members of Los Abogados. And it's terrific to see them fill those ranks.